Mubarak. Welcome back to another episode of The Field Between. We're running a 10 times multiplier on Dean points. Just this Eid special. My name is Ahmed.
I'm Yasmin.
Excited to be here with you today. What do we have in store? I need to turn up my mic, actually. Hold on. Okay, hopefully that's better. I'll turn yours up too.
Eid is on Friday.
Big voice.
Eid is on Friday.
Uh-huh.
We've got some plans. It'll be fun. It's weird because I know that like in Muslim majority context, this is like the bigger Eid. But in the US, at least in my experience, it always just feels kind of like an afterthought. I think people like actually put an effort for Ramadan because everyone's fasting and stuff. But if you or someone you're close to is like not going on Hajj, this one is still nice, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't on my radar as much.
Yeah. I just started following this account of this, I think it's been around for a while, but a guy who goes, or a couple of people who go by Hajj on horseback.
Oh, they're going from Spain, right?
Yeah, did you see it?
Yes, I've seen them like floating around the internet. I don't follow the account, but
it's cool. I reached
really
out to the account to see if any of them would be interested in coming on the podcast.
Oh, I love that. But also, especially with your screenplay, that'd be a really cool, like,
Yeah. I love the idea. Hate that it ends in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. It's more about Mecca and not about Saudi, obviously, but yes.
Yeah. But yeah, that's cool. I've been following them. I need to actually, are they making a documentary? Like what's the...
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I've seen it floating around for a while, so I'm not sure if it's like the same. Is it the same people who go every year, or is it just like different people?
I think it's just this group of guys. I don't know if they've done it before or if they...
I feel like I saw it a few years ago. I could be wrong though.
Yeah.
I definitely have seen it recently though. It's very cool. Yeah.
Maybe they'll sell it as an experience.
Honestly, worse packages out there. That sounds really awesome.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to like try riding a horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds cool. What are we doing for Eid? We're going to go to prayers in the morning, and then we're probably just going to have a pretty normal Friday, honestly. But then we're going to a local family has invited us for dinner, so that'll be nice.
Yeah.
We got friendly with the daughters.
Not too friendly.
No, appropriately friendly.
Appropriately friendly.
Yeah, they're really sweet. They're sisters. One of them is my age. One of them's a little younger. Yeah, it's always fun. So it's very like generous when people open up their home to you for Eid.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else is new with us, Ahmed? Let's give people a general update before we get into it.
I guess good news. Less back pain than normal. I think it's on a downward decline.
That's awesome.
Or downward trajectory in terms of overall pain, with pretty bad flare-ups here and then.
You kind of were having a flare-up last night, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
we'd like gone hiking and moved
done
around, and I did a lot of driving.
You drove a lot.
But
overall.
But now, actually, the flare-up yesterday was not my lower back, which has been the issue for a while. It's more so just a return of neck and cervical spine issues. So I messaged my doctor and asked to get a prescription to start focusing on that in physical therapy. But anyway, good news with the other stuff. Hopefully it continues on that path.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
It's
I'm glad that
definitely not fully healed, but
right, but that you found specific things that help is really awesome.
yeah.
My healing update, which is not as serious, but nonetheless, I'm exclusively wearing hokas until I am healed.
Yeah.
And while it brings me sadness to see them with my outfits every day, they're not even ugly, honestly. It's just that like I wouldn't wear them with every outfit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a lot less pain. I mean, I would say I'm almost in no pain. It's only like after the end of a day of walking. And I can have really short periods now where I've got nothing on, but still almost all the time I have either the hokas on or my little sock braces, but also on the up and up. So that's good.
Great. So that was the geriatric roundup for this episode.
Which is important.
Yeah. What's next? What else?
What else is new with us?
We saw a waterfall yesterday. That was nice. You, under the guise of wanting to be spontaneous, but I have a feeling it's more to avoid doing writing. You were like, oh, let's go to a waterfall.
I think it was both. You know when you're just like feeling stuck in a rut?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, there's actually a lot to be grateful for. And we should just take advantage of that. You know, like you've been stressed with job apps and I've been working on this article, but we won't always have like so much time. And also, I mean, we ended up going with friends, which was equally fun, but I was kind of like craving just like alone time with you. And like, I've been feeling really plugged into screens lately, and I just wanted to be in nature. So it was nice.
It was good.
Yeah.
I'd say we spent the bulk of the time at that waterfall, which was just off the parking lot.
Yeah. Less of a hike, but it was still really beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun.
I've been doing more research. There's a hike in the area that this is Ohio Pile, which is like an hour and a half from us. Really beautiful park in Western Pennsylvania. There's a hike I really want to do there now that I'm looking forward to.
Nice.
Yeah. Besides that, I feel like just same old, working on this article. Can't wait to update you all when it's done. It will be done by this end of the week for sure, by Friday. I gotta say that because I just need to move on to other projects. Just living life.
I'm just living life right now, man.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm gonna do till it's over.
I guess that is how it goes.
But it's far from over.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
That's Drake.
Oh, great.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Glad that I just prayed over that.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to give an update from last episode because I re-listened to a bit of it and I was like, oh, fuck. Probably no one noticed, but I was embarrassed. I think I said Mujahid when I was talking about Renewer of the Faith. Mujahid, as you might have guessed based on the pronunciation, is like someone who is striving, could either be in service of jihad, but could also be striving in some other way that is more spiritual. What I meant to say was Mujahid. So,
Mujahid.
Yeah.
Renewer,
right, exactly. So, a little correction there.
Yeah, people have been writing in a tizzy.
No one
Just
has
a lot
written.
of fury.
No one has written in, thankfully.
You should check the YouTube comments.
I don't look at the YouTube comments.
Brutal.
Because
by the way, plug at the top of the episode, we are on YouTube at The Field Between. Make sure you go listen. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please go follow the show, and also please rate us because that helps with the algorithm. And my job prospects are not good, and so we are trying to monetize this.
we are not, but
we're really looking to get some sponsorships from Muzmatch.
Oh gosh,
Maybe your local halal grocery store.
that would be a sick sponsorship.
Raytheon.
Nah, only
Rand
halal.
Corporation.
Only halal sponsorships.
Andrew Cuomo.
Gosh, no. Oh, other update I forgot to give. This is my favorite part of the show. I love just like reflecting on stuff.
Yeah.
We went to a really lovely Pride picnic this Sunday. We didn't really do much this weekend, but then Sunday we had a really social day.
We went to a Pride picnic? Oh, yeah. We went to a picnic. Yes,
yeah,
that's
that
right.
Ahmed made chai for, and that was super fun.
Yep.
It's just nice to be outdoors, to have it
Should've made
finally
more
be
chai.
sunny. Yeah, there was more people than I expected, actually, which was nice. And then after that, we went to like a little jazz thing at someone's house, which was lovely. So, good weekend.
That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good Sunday, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. We also saw the Pride Parade outside of our window.
Another one of the benefits of living downtown.
That was fun. We saw a gay robot.
It was actually really cute.
It was cute. Someone had made a robot.
It was a super cute robot. Okay. Should I give my hot take? We also saw a lot of
no.
furries.
Oh, no. Don't do this.
As you know, Pittsburgh is very furry accepting, which I have no issue with because the furry convention happens here. But I just am like a little confused. Like, does being a furry mean that you are then
It's not a part of the
LGBTQIA spectrum?
But maybe they're going to be added.
Yeah, there's not an F right now.
Who knows? I chalk this one up to I don't know, and it's not my business.
That's fair. Let me not gatekeep. It's not like I was, marching, but
Yeah.
I had questions. But I was like, if you're gay and a furry, of course, I get it. But if you're a straight furry,
Yeah.
but I guess there's something inherently queer about being a furry, ?
So there was like a small contingent of people in the parade who were, shouting, protesting Free Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a direct response to the fact that the corporation Howmet is a sponsor of Pittsburgh Pride, which is enables and makes weapons systems that go into like fighter jets that then go to Israel and all this stuff. So I think there's a lot of disagreement over Pride, Pittsburgh Pride, but there is I think Greenfield Pride, which is sometime later this month, is going to be the one where like they don't have any of those.
This is a very
problematic corporate sponsors.
Yeah, I think the one that has unfortunately a lot of corporate sponsors is like the Main City Pride,
Yeah.
which I think was the one that we saw, right? That was outdoors,
that's the one.
right?
Yep.
But it's a really queer inclusive city, which is lovely. So there are a ton of pride parades all around town. Like a lot of neighborhoods have one. I know there's also a Dyke March. I think that already happened actually. And a lot of those non-city sponsored ones that are more local are a lot more careful and intentional about their sponsorships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should check out the Greenfield one. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I've heard that's really cute and like a very neighborhood one. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I've got like a little news roundup to get started, if that's all right.
Yeah. We just got a new subscriber on YouTube.
Are you monitoring in real time?
This episode's not even out yet, and the plug is working.
Oh, that's great. Wow. Just getting the energy out there.
Yeah. Well, someone had unsubscribed, and then we just gained a different subscriber back. So that's nice.
That's good. Equilibrium. How many YouTube subscribers do we have? Not that many, I'm sure. It's really small.
43.
Oh, okay. That's honestly more than I thought. Only a few episodes people have listened to on YouTube, and the comments are so funny. They're like, I don't know how I found this, which is totally fair.
Yeah, I think someone messaged me and said, oh, this podcast has no business being this good, which is a pretty good...
That's so sweet.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice YouTube message.
Low expectations.
Yeah.
High reward.
So this is a depressing roundup of people who have been killed or recently injured, and I just thought thematically it made sense to put this together just to kind of get through it and just sort of acknowledge it, and then we can keep on going. The first, and this was just injured, but it's very severely injured in Boulder. A man threw a Molotov cocktail while shouting "Free Palestine" at a vigil for Israeli hostages. Really awful, really violent, nonsensical targeting of just everyday people. And I think 4 people were injured, right? Pretty seriously.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the count, but
yeah,
sounds right. Did anyone die?
No one died. No,
Okay.
which is good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Really awful. Just kind of disturbing. This isn't Pakistan, but I don't know why this has like affected me so much, but I've seen a lot of people posting about it. It's probably just kind of in my media ecosystem, but it just is upsetting. There's this young woman named Sana Yusuf who was 17. She was a TikToker. And there was this older man that was like attracted to her and like really aggressively trying to marry her. She refused his advances and he killed her. And there's a couple of things that are disturbing about this besides like sort of the obvious facts. I think the main thing is that this is becoming a bit of a pattern. Obviously there is unfortunately gender-based violence globally and there's patriarchy globally, but I do think there can be like culturally specific instantiations of what that looks like. And in both India and Pakistan, there's just been like a huge amount of like just violence towards women. And in Pakistan specifically, there's been about like 5 cases in I think the last 5 years of just like high profile targeting of women who are like very visible. Mm-hmm. So there was Noor Muqaddam, who just this year, the death sentence against her, again, someone who wanted to marry her, was upheld. I think Kadil Baloch was one of the most famous ones. In that case, it was actually her brother who killed her. But the thing that's really disturbing also is like these comments, thankfully most of them are like, oh, this is awful. We shouldn't live in a society where this is normal. But then there's still people who are like, and her contact was inappropriate. Like, and it's like, there's just no need to say that. And it's just not relevant. Like and just the pictures of her, like she's so young, like she's clearly a high school kid. And just like the idea that it would be appropriate even for an older man to be attracted to her or to act on that attraction is already insane. I mean, let alone do an act of violence. So yeah, just upsetting. I'm glad that it's creating conversation, I guess. I hope that translates into more actual safety for people. And just this idea of like that you're supposed to automatically accept whatever proposal comes your way, no matter how inappropriate. I mean, forget about whether or not it seems appropriate on paper. Like, obviously, if you just don't want to be with someone, you shouldn't have to, which seems like a really basic fact. But there just seems to be sort of an emboldenment of these really far gone, radicalized men who just feel like they deserve women in this context, which is upsetting.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, definitely not good. And then the last one that I want to talk about is Jonathan Joss, who you first mentioned to me. But he was the voice of, what's that character's name on King of the Hill?
John Redcorn.
John Redcorn, that's right. And then I found out, I didn't know it was the same guy, but he was also on Parks and Rec, which is a show I used to really enjoy. Yeah, he played this character who was like a local. So the actor is Native American, and he was like a Native American official. And his main kind of shtick was that he would kind of like fuck with everyone and just like accuse them of being a racist. So it was like a funny bit. But yeah, it's really sad. He was killed. Don't have to go into the details, but in Texas, in front of his partner.
Well, I think I don't want to give graphic detail, but I think it's worth going into the detail because it really illustrates like just how hateful and violent it was, and how I think that's kind of downstream of just the cultural and world that we're in right now, especially politically. But so from what I've read, it seems like he and his husband came back home. Found that their dog had been murdered. They found, I think, the body parts of the dog in the mailbox. I think his husband posted that they found the skull of the dog like hanging from something. I'm not really sure. And it's so horrific. They were reacting to that, and in that reaction is when the neighbor came and shot at them, and then killed Jonathan. So yeah, just like an absolutely brutal, savage murder, very akin to, when lynchings were common, and it's clearly done because, they're gay, and this guy really hated them for that. So horrific. Yeah, and I think it's just worth pausing on the manner in which it happened, and really thinking about what conditions caused this. I think we've been through a lot of these sorts of murders targeting one group or another, and people want to see them as aberrations just because they're less frequent than your typical murder where someone just shoots someone and like nothing is shouted, and you don't really have an indication to the mens rea of the perpetrator. But this is very clear, and yeah, it's I think it's worth reflecting on and connecting to just broader political climate.
Yeah, I think you're right, especially because it's Pride Month, and I feel like in some ways there has been progress and there has been acceptance, even as we're living through an incredible black slide. And so it's easy to kind of think of it as like, even me just being like jokey about the furries or whatever, like this kind of like lighthearted thing. But I think it really is important to take up space in that way, especially in a moment like now where like queer communities are under attack. Yeah. His husband's also, I think his husband is trans. So there's like that element too. And then the other thing that's really frustrating about this, and I know that this is like a legal category and they have to be careful, but there hasn't been a ton of reporting, and the reporting that has come out like from the New York Post, which is kind of a dribble paper, has really framed it as a neighborly spat, and like not highlighted up front in the beginning of the article that this was like pretty clearly a homophobic and hate-filled attack.
That's exactly what happened with the shooting in Chapel Hill.
I was just thinking that. Yep.
Is when Diat, Yusur and Razan were like all murdered, immediately the news was reporting on it as like a neighbor parking dispute.
Yeah.
And I think everyone who was in that community obviously like knew that wasn't the case, especially with two of them being like visible hijabis. So
yeah, it's frustrating because there's so much speculation when shooters hold identities that are like in the minority. And so it's frustrating when people who are in any kind of minority group are killed, and then there isn't that kind of like, perhaps there's a connection here, especially in this case where like there clearly was. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't even in Chapel Hill then. That was years before I was in Chapel Hill. But I mean, the whole country, or at least Muslims across the country, were really watching that. I remember posting and saying like, this is clearly like a hate crime, and people like debating me in the comments. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
And you went to school with Yeah. I just wanted to read the statement from his husband because it was really lovely.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of did a good overview, so I won't talk about again, the kind of initial circumstance just afterwards. And so what's even also interesting too is they actually had left the home because of these threats and because they were nervous. They were back to check the mail, and they saw that, like, I don't know if they lived nearby, that the dog had been, as you mentioned, strung up. So while they were checking the mail, while we were doing this, a man approached us. He started yelling violent homophobic slurs at us. He then raised a gun from his lap and fired. Jonathan and I had no weapons. We were not threatening anyone. We were grieving. We were standing side by side. When the man fired, Jonathan pushed me out of the way. He saved my life. Jonathan is my husband. He gave me more love in our time together than most people ever get. We were newlyweds. We picked Valentine's Day. We were in the process of looking for a trailer and planning our future. He was murdered by someone who could not stand the sight of two men loving each other. I was with him when he passed. I told him how much he was loved. To everyone who supported him, his fans, his friends, know that he valued you deeply. He saw you as family. My focus now is protecting Jonathan's legacy and honoring the life we built together. If your concern is how someone coped with trauma or how loudly they speak when recounting injustice and being ignored by authorities, then you never truly cared about my husband. Jonathan saved my life. I will carry that forward. I will protect what he built. Tristan. Again, I feel like a statement that probably should be circulating a little bit more in more mainstream media. Just both that, like, there were homophobic slurs being yelled at the time of the shooting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just appreciated how that put his legacy into context. Really fun, played really great characters in both of those shows. And also there's not like a lot of Native American representation really at all in our media, so it kind of stands out.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to find out that John Redcorn was voiced by a Native American. But
King of the Hill, ahead of its time.
yeah, I suppose. But yeah, it's a really sad story, but it sounds like the husband is trying to find healing, and I hope something positive comes out of that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm surprised to have not seen the take, or maybe I'm just like not on the right spaces, or maybe the wrong spaces on social media, but I feel like if this had happened in 2016, people would have been like, oh, well, Target pulls Pride, sections from their stores, and like all these companies stop doing corporate Pride, and now look what happens, as if there's a causal relationship between that.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think I'm heartened to see that more people are understanding of the fact that we just have a hyper-militarized, authoritarian system of government that I mean, we've talked about it on the show, that I think just there is a causal relationship between that and a more violent society. And I think that's what people's focus has been in addressing stuff like this. So
we also just have so many guns. I mean, if someone wants to kill you in Texas, they can. It's going to be like we're a very armed society. But on the Target point, I feel like there's kind of two ways to see that. The more optimistic take, I think, is that increasingly there is kind of a return to thinking about queerness as like something that is in opposition to the state, right? Like thinking about the beginning of the Stonewall riot, which we now commemorate with pride, and thinking about the fact that it was a riot and that it was specifically like police barging in on a queer bar, that it was led by a trans woman. And this kind of idea of like corporations won't save us, and like Target doesn't need to be at the Pride Parade, Yeah. I feel like that's the more optimistic take. I feel like the more pessimistic take, but there's a bit of truth to both maybe, is that just because like Trump won the popular vote this time, I just feel like some things that, because so much is happening, it's almost like harder to focus on one individual thing. Mm-hmm. And to kind of like connect dots, whether they should rightfully or wrongfully be connected. I feel like there's a bit of fatigue.
Yeah, perhaps. Okay. Moving on, I guess, did you have any other items?
I have a really lighthearted item, so I'll get to that later.
Okay. You want to get to it now, or?
Nah.
Okay. I don't really have anything.
I
can talk a little bit, actually, going back to the Boulder, Colorado attack.
Okay.
It was an Egyptian man who was, I don't know if he shouted Free Palestine, but I mean, he was clearly...
He shouted it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So he shouted it.
He was on a visa that he overstayed, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
I'm very much not sure on any of the details. The video was pretty straightforward that, it was a guy, shouting about Palestine at this group of people who were at a vigil for the Israeli hostages. So the reaction to it, I have this video up of Jonathan Greenblatt, who is the head of the ADL. And, he's talking about how the media and everyone who is saying essentially free Palestine is to blame for things like the attack in Boulder, Colorado. Don't do that with the wire. The attack in Boulder, Colorado, as well as the shooting outside of the museum of the 2 embassy staffers. So I kind of wanted to just I picked a random spot in this video because it's a 25-minute interview. I just saw it come online a little while ago, so I haven't listened to all of it. I think at some point he mentions also the speaker at MIT for the
graduation speaker.
Yeah. Trying to say that she's also, to blame for the Boulder, Colorado attack. So hold on, I'm going to turn up the volume and then, you don't really need to look at him. It's kind of an awful thing to see, but as long as you can hear.
Companies, and they have biased and warped things. I see this all the time. I see this not just in, the channels that you can find on cable TV. We see it in Wikipedia. Again, we see it in places like TikTok. It is astonishing how people like Hassan Piker and Guy Christensen are somehow the arbiters of information today for a younger generation. So I think that radicalism has altered the media landscape in ways that are not fact-based, but in ways that simply drive a political position, even one steeped in seething with racism and bigotry.
As you talk about the radicalization of these issues, I'm thinking about the event at the Israeli embassy, which you said was to raise funds or awareness for the humanitarian initiatives in Gaza.
Let's clarify. So the event that took place about a week and a half ago was at the Capitol Jewish Museum, which is a non-political entity. That's literally a museum that talks about Jewish life in Washington, D.C. over centuries. Now, there were a lot of people there, including representatives of the diplomatic corps and young people. There were Jewish and non-Jewish people there. And this assailant, Elias Rodriguez from Chicago, affiliated with the Party of Socialism and Liberation, a radical, extreme left-wing
Wait, can you pause this?
He attended the event. I'm not sure how he...
Look, okay, sometimes SLP I find annoying, but they're certainly... Sorry, PSL, my bad. But they certainly are not to blame for this. And again, they put out a statement immediately being we do not claim this person. We were not associated with this attack. This is this guy just was briefly, I think, involved in this organization. So you could also probably go back to I don't know if he was in high school drumline. You could go back to any organization that he was involved in and implicate it. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't make sense. And also that they keep on trying to target individual people. It's such a creepy example of doxing. This young person who graduated from MIT, who gave a graduation speech, to suggest that to give a speech advocating for Gazans and Palestinians more broadly is the same thing as attacking someone is just again, just shows such a disregard for the life of Palestinians.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, right? They're trying to make it so that there's no daylight between throwing a Molotov cocktail into a crowd and saying free Palestine. And they want both to be equally punished under the law.
Exactly. And in spite of these two really awful events that have happened, in which both cases someone did chant free Palestine, the media is finally kind of I mean, I can't even celebrate it because, as I said before, it's just absolutely revolting how late this has happened. But there is I don't even want to say a tide turn, but there is a slight shift in perception among more mainstream media outlets that are more regularly reporting on atrocities happening in Gaza, just because I think the famine has reached a point of such horror that I think everyone wants there to be on record that they said something, even if it was small, which is like so horrific and spineless. But I feel like that shows that even in spite of these two awful attacks, like that is still happening. Like you can't really get a grip on the public perception, just kind of like realizing how horrific Gaza is. And I know personally, like within my own social circles, a few people who, I don't want to give like any identifying details, obviously, but like we're not really, didn't feel strongly about this issue, and maybe even have been like, you could have maybe, I don't know if they would identify themselves this way, but you could have maybe identified them as like passively liberal Zionists who have been like super anti-Israel, like who have, it's not even become radicalized, like they just become educated on this issue because of the realities, you know? So I think that narrative is just being lost in spite of like all of the ADL funding. And it's also so sad because the ADL like used to also do some important work in terms of like genuine anti-Semitism, but it's almost kind of now just sort of like morphed into an AIPAC-like organization that is just trying to like fight anyone who is anti-Israel.
I mean, I don't know. Since the 80s, at least, ADL has also been targeting and surveilling students and doing awful stuff that has ruined people's lives. So
no, you're right. And that's like the thing that sucks. But like they were very much like also, in addition to that, kind of like a care type organization that tried to like, but you're right, that doesn't undo the legacy of harm that they've caused. But like it was the default organization for when things that were genuinely anti-Semitic happened, you know? And now they're just kind of like a void, like there isn't anything because that was the only infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm personally not an expert on the history of the ADL, but I do know that it has certainly contributed to the overall military and surveillance state and police overreach and what seemed to be like extrajudicious disappearings and, you know, again, just like completely destroying people's lives and livelihoods. So fuck them. As far as I'm concerned, they've never done anything good. But I want to go back.
Sorry, I just want to like gently push back on that. Like, I mean, again, like I'd probably have to do more research and stuff. And like, what do you mean by extrajudicial disappearings? Like, are you talking about 9/11 and the N series and that kind of stuff? Or was that ADL involved in that?
I mean, I think ADL was involved in campus, like pushing back against campus activists who were then surveilled and like detained.
I see. So there's like a kind of like correlation between those.
You got to talk into the mic and not move it around.
So there's like a correlation between those groups working together.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the only reason why I'm kind of like careful with that, like I don't feel, by the way, like right now in this present moment, like I like fuck the ADL for sure. I mean, they lost me a long time before this, but especially when they were like, maybe Elon didn't do a Nazi salute. I was just like, what are you doing? Like, you're not even doing the thing that you say you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. They're like, whoa, hold on. He's not a Nazi just because he did the fucking Hail Hitler salute.
But they have historically like also done some advocacy for people who are being persecuted. And I feel like one thing I'm sort of wary of is like some critiques that could be made of like the ADL in the 80s could probably also be made of CARE in the 90s. And like I think that CARE has like really worked to reform itself as an organization. So I don't know. I think it's a little complicated, but I definitely agree with you that's not complicated in this present moment.
No, not at all. And yeah, just, you know, worth pausing on the fact that when it comes to something like Elon Musk doing that salute, they advocate for restraint and reason and nuance and really just trying to, you know, put the most friendly interpretation on an action like that, even in the context of him giving all this money and attention to the far-right German party. But when it comes to PSL or, you know, this guy specifically, they're all trying to get Hassan Piker deplatformed and
so crazy
deported and detained. And so in those cases, they advocate for like it just seems like they're going out of their way to really align themselves with Nazis and be like, that's okay. But then anyone who is critical of Nazis, they're like, yeah, we should probably deport this person. I think the Hassan Piker thing makes me think a lot of, again, back to, you know, 2016 during maybe the height of wokeness or whatever, and people really...
the pussy hat era?
Yeah, the pussy hat era.
I had a pussy hat.
And also the Russiagate era.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, a lot of people made a lot of fuss about people like Glenn Greenwald, about people like Joe Rogan, about, any independent or somewhat critical media of the narrative that, of like the Russiagate thing, were seen as dangerous misinformation, like arms of Russia propaganda that needed to be silenced, right? Like, and then there were all these campaigns and effort to crack down on social media misinformation, and people like, whether you like him or not, like I'm not a fan, but like people wanted Joe Rogan deplatformed and like all these other people deplatformed. And I feel like this moment has come around, and the conservatives and the fascists and the authoritarians are doing the exact same thing that the woke scolds were doing back in 2016. And I hope there's a lesson in that for people who may not be on that, that woke scold side anymore or whatever, but like maybe we're somewhat aligned. That anytime like a political institution is talking about deplatforming or getting rid of people on some like, and trying to lump a large group of people or, paint them with like a broad stroke, that should be cause for concern, even if it's against people you don't particularly like.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, no one, to be clear, there was no like actual like federal government action to like legally deplatform Joe Rogan. But there was a lot of like media talk about like, oh, like this is a dangerous, unaccountable. And then that also like instituted the whole like Facebook fact checker thing. So there was some like institutional moves, but like Facebook is a private entity that did sow a lot of misinformation during the 2016 election. So like, I don't know. But I guess it shows like, we talked about this before, but it's like still such an interesting concept. I'm not actually fully sure where I am even on it, but like, it's pretty rare to find someone who is fully free speech regardless of the content of the speech, right? Like, I think both conservatives and liberals like across the political aisle will kind of like wiffle waffle. Like, where is that line between like incitement to violence or even like miseducation to a point of like potentially being that proverbial, yelling fire in a crowded theater, whatever Justice said that. Like, I feel like both sides kind of waffle on that when it's to their advantage and cry free speech when it's not.
Yeah, I want to pause on what you said about, something like Facebook is a private entity. The same argument could be made of Harvard or MIT or Twitch, I think, where Hassan Piker is a streamer that's owned by Jeff Bezos, right? They're not going to issue a law that says, hey, you need to deplatform this person, right? They're going to do it by pressuring the owners of the platform and saying, you need to get rid of this person, or
but like
we're going to pressure MIT or Harvard to crack down on this dissent or that speaker or whatever, unless they want to lose funding.
But who was actually? I mean, Joe Rogan didn't get deplatformed. Like, this didn't really happen. You know what I mean?
I'm not specifically talking about Joe Rogan. I'm talking, but there were like, people who got fired, deplatformed
in 2016 for what? For Russia?
Again, not specifically for Russia, but you can think about like any number of like causes or,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
like it did happen as like a thing, right?
I guess I don't really know if it did. What happened? Just that there was like pushback against.
Yeah, like a concerted crackdown against different voices. I mean, the most high profile one being Alex Jones. Let's take him as a very controversial example, right? Like, I don't like Alex Jones. I don't believe anything he says. I think he's a absolute piece of shit. But there was the concerted effort to deplatform and make sure that he could not be heard anywhere.
Alex Jones was deplatformed because of the case brought against the students who were killed in the Sandy Hook
That's finally
shooting.
What they got him on, right? But
yeah, I don't think it was
been kind of trying to get
because
him
of Russia.
deplatformed before then for a while.
Yeah, but I mean that like crossed the line in the sand, I think, of like basic humanity. Like those parents were like incredibly harassed. I mean, I think that legally made sense.
And then there were journalists who had appeared on RT or had shows on RT who were, not allowed to be on programs here.
What's RT?
Russia Times.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
American journalists. So, I mean, it's like definitely like a thing that happened, right?
I don't know. I feel like it's maybe like a little bit of like a leftist talking point. I'm not sure if there was like as much of like, in my opinion, as much of like a persecution in reality, but maybe.
I mean, I can probably bring up a few more examples if you really want me to, but so I guess your position is that it didn't really happen.
I don't know. But I still hear you on the point that like people are not consistent on free speech. So I guess there's something there that happened to that extent for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have like such deep hatred for Alex Jones. I just like can't deal with like what he did to like those parents. It's insane. I'm glad that he is forcibly deplatformed. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like he maybe should have served prison time. Like, I mean, just the fact that people had to like move houses and like go into hiding is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly dealing with the consequences of his free speech.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In that case, it was almost
but I
like
guess
an incitement to violence.
The question would be, would we want the private platform owner to make that decision for us rather than have someone give, you use your platform, however, and then, deal with the consequences of it in like whatever, I put in quotes free market, right? Like he got sued, but the goal of a lot of these challenges to him were to make sure that he couldn't even have that platform.
And I guess you're right that also it can almost kind of create a narrative of martyrdom, like when you do then like feel like there is kind of like state intervention in a way that's not consistent. Yeah.
I mean, also, like with Donald Trump, he got deplatformed off of
X.
It was Twitter.
Twitter at the time, right?
He went to Truth Social.
Right. Yeah, that's true. There'll always be some other platform,
Which
I guess.
now I'm not on, but like I feel like
you're not on X. You were never on Truth Social, right?
I'm not on Truth Social. But like I hear it cited so often because I guess he's so active on it.
I think it's like his bully pulpit. Like he just puts out stuff there. Yeah.
I know, but before I'm like, I guess I'm just like always surprised by how much people cite Truth Social.
I think they're
on
it.
And how little contact or exposure I have to it.
I think they're on it exclusively to cite the president. It's like such a weird thing. It's almost like his personal social media platform. Yeah. It's kind of strange. Yeah. I forget, it was a while back, but I think it was maybe a daily episode I listened to about Truth Social. And it was like a really ill-fated project run by these two people who like had a lot of like tech issues. And like, it's just really funny that it ended up being picked up in this way.
Yeah.
I wanted to circle back though to the incident because you brought something to my attention that I then like skimmed an article about and hadn't heard, which is that, glad that the attacker was apprehended, but all 5 of his family members, right? His like 4 kids and his wife all had their immigration status stripped and they are being deported.
Wife and 5 kids, I think.
Wife and 5 kids, gosh.
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to get to next, so thanks. But it's not, I can't remember a time, like I feel like even when we were in the midst of like 9/11, I guess maybe this has kind of happened to a certain extent here and there, but I think even like, if I'm not mistaken, like Osama bin Laden's wife was not like just locked up and like, or like his
I don't know, actually.
distant relatives or nieces and nephews.
He had distant relatives, not decent relatives. Sorry, I don't know them, who were in the U.S. who, you're right, were allowed to live freely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they were ever like brought in for questioning or whatever, but certainly they weren't rounded up and then also, it seems like made party to someone else's crimes who they don't have control over.
Yeah, I know this is like almost like doesn't matter anymore, obviously, but like that's not legal, right? You can't strip someone's legal status from them just because they were related to someone who committed a crime.
I guess, I don't know. I mean, I guess the legality matters less now than it does, but I don't know if it's by the letter of the law.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're citizens. I guess if they were citizens, they'd be more protected. Maybe they're green card holders, or I don't know what their status was because there's often mixed status families. But
yeah, but I think they're they've been kind of marked for expedited deportation.
Yeah, which honestly, like, obviously is not the like largest tragedy in the story, but it is creepy. And I think this is kind of harkens back to a point that we made earlier that I think it's important to keep on reminding like myself of, which is like, it's really important to hold on to due process for everyone. Like, even like, yeah, I mean, these were like kids, like some of them are in high school. It doesn't make sense that they would automatically be liable for their dad's crimes.
I think it's a huge tragedy, actually. I think because what's happening is you're taking people who have committed no crime. They've done nothing. They are irrelevant, like not relevant to what this guy's being charged with at all. They're not co-conspirators in any way. At least the government hasn't brought forth any evidence that they were. Even if they have made anything like a pro-Palestine post or an anti-Israel post or whatever, or anything that someone like Jonathan Greenblatt would consider damning evidence, that would not connect them to what their father did.
For sure,
right?
yeah.
And would not be grounds for certainly detaining them or deporting them or charging them with any offense or crime. So what's happening is, you have one person who commits a crime, and then suddenly we start to look at their entire social familial networks and see, oh, well, who else could we kind of like
Pick off.
charge and pick
Yeah.
off on this and peg with this crime and punish them for it. And right now it's, this is an instance where it's immediate family, but what if bringing in like another news story, right? Like the US government is now contracting with Palantir to build a master database of all Americans, and Palantir does things like, scrub your social media networks, all your online history, all your, presence online. And then they're going to take that, mix it with government data, and like really get like a very, very in-depth picture of who an individual is, what they posted, what they believe, a lot of information, right? And who they're connected to. So it's not crazy to imagine that in that world that they wouldn't just stop at immediate family members. They would
Or
go
even like
to,
people you've worked with, associates. Yeah.
who do I have contact with on a frequent basis?
Right.
Who do I message?
No, you're totally right. Guilt by proxy is not a good system. I feel like it shows like how it's like, the like crab in boiling water, like how acclimated we get to new realities in ways that like are kind of disturbing. Like my immediate thought was like, well, at least they're not being sent to South Sudan or like
think it's
Venezuela. What?
I think it's frog in boiling water.
Frog? Oh, I was thinking crab because I like to eat crabs.
Yeah, the frog, I think the parable is like the frog can jump out.
Oh yeah, the crabs, that's
you
much
do-
harder because they have their little pincers. That's a good
Right.
point.
Yeah, the crab just gets cooked regardless.
Yeah, but they don't like it. I've seen it. It's sad.
Fair. I don't think I would like being boiled alive either. This shit sucks.
But they taste so good. Yeah, I mean, like that was my first thought was like, oh, at least they're not going to Venezuela. At least they're not going to like South Sudan. Like at least they're where other people have been deported. At
We
least
don't know that, right? Like
they're
they could.
so far they've said they're being sent back to Egypt.
Okay.
Which like I don't know their circumstances or if they have a network there or like if they will be treated shittily by the Egyptian government based on this association, which is a whole nother worry actually given Egypt's extensive jailing system. But yeah, no, you're right. It is definitely it's a slippery slide in a way that is worrisome.
Yeah, and so to have someone like Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL come here and say, we should have a hyper-authoritarian state that just jails people to people we don't like and should crack down on media voices and like, not even tacitly, but just kind of, and you don't have to read between the lines, but just kind of taking the veneer off what he's saying and advocating for. It is like it's way more than what the woke scolds in 2016 were advocating for, but it is in essence the same thing, right? We want to be able to appeal to private industry and the government to just crack down on any dissidents and punish them to the fullest extent of the law, or even beyond the law.
Yeah, again, I don't sign off or agree with the woke scold of 2016 part being analogous to this, but I definitely agree with you that there is like a really pernicious kind of slide here with people like the ADL director essentially just kind of signing off on people being persecuted for free speech. And that's like really adjacent to what's happening here in terms of like people being persecuted, not even for free speech, but by association, like guilt by association.
Yeah.
Which is kind of dangerous. Yeah. Anything else on that, or any other news items, or do you want something very lighthearted? Actually, not. I'll take that back. It could potentially be not that lighthearted, but more lighthearted than this for sure.
Yeah. I don't have anything other than to say our second highest, I'm looking at some stats right now, our second highest country in which we are listened to is Netherlands right now.
So random.
Yeah. So it's the US and then Netherlands.
I literally don't think I know a single soul in the Netherlands.
Yeah. So if you are in the Netherlands and listening to us, shout out.
Who are you? We're curious.
Yeah, I don't know. Make yourself known.
Wait. I'm confused. Like, could this just be like one guy who downloaded all our episodes? That wouldn't be enough, right? It has to be multiple people.
I don't know.
Is it like a little
maybe.
cute family that is listening to our podcast?
I don't know. I hope so. They're all wearing their wooden shoes.
Well, let us not offend our Netherlands constituents.
Riding their bikes.
That sounds nice. I would love that.
Whittling.
Okay, so this is a account called Sunni Marriage that pops up in my suggested sometimes. I don't know why. I know why, but I don't click on or interact with this kind of stuff.
Well, we have a Sunni marriage.
No, we don't. We have a sushi marriage.
Sushi marriage.
That's Shia Sunni marriage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We have a sushfi, because I think we both want to be Sufis.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a little couple. He's got a hat on and a thobe. She's a hijabi. And it ends by saying, send to a friend who needs this, which if anyone ever sent this to me, I would bop them over the head. But it says, your Instagram could be why you're overlooked for marriage.
Oh.
The photos you share, it's just a selfie. But Islamically, it is wrong, ? I think that it's wrong.
Okay.
Sisters, posting photos for non-mahrams goes against Islamic modesty. Brothers, gym pics showing aura aren't modest either. Haya is for all of us.
Showing aura?
Yeah, aura is like for like men, it's like anything that's not from like your navel to your knee.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, not aura. Okay.
No, not like your happy aura, like your aura's jade
see,
or something.
I see,
Yeah,
okay.
you're like private pieces of your body.
Private
like
pieces.
your
Penis.
biceps.
Right.
Goes, yeah, also. No, your biceps are okay. You're right. Yeah, your penis or like your upper thigh.
Right.
Yeah.
Nipple.
Fitna is real. Beware of, no, you can show nipple, I guess.
Oh,
I mean, it
sick.
depends on how you define that stuff, but
Okay.
fitna is real. Beware of who you follow, wow, this grammar is really bad, and who you allow to follow you.
Mm-hmm.
When you expose yourself to unnecessary temptation, you're making your heart vulnerable. Damn. Marriage and modesty are connected. Many serious Muslims pass on profiles where modesty and haya are absent, even if the deen boxes are ticked.
Mm-hmm.
Good women are for good men, and good men are for good women. The content itself, dance trends, lip syncs, music covers, sarcastic takes on marriage, thirst traps. Posting and consuming this content will not benefit you. Every soul will be held and pledged for what it has earned. All right, so first of all, Ahmed posting thirst traps is what got him this marriage. If you really think
No, it's not true. It's not
I mean,
true.
it helped.
When I posted about my mind and said, join my book club.
But that was after I met you in person. But then when you started posting one or two very tasteful thirst traps, that's when I realized you were single.
But I was doing so within the Islamic guidelines. I didn't show, my shirt was always on.
You were shirtless in one, I
No.
think. It was like a progress pic.
No, I never posted a shirtless.
You did. We talked about it. It was like you really thought about it because you had made so much progress after a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But I missed that one, actually. You told me about it after. So I can't
Right.
even say that I was swayed by that content. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, look.
Uh-oh.
What? What?
Oh no.
I was gonna say.
I've broken Islamic guidelines on social media.
I feel like this is just like kind of silly and not that serious, but I do feel like, I don't know, I feel like so many Muslim women in particular are trying to get married. They're just kind of like shaming them and telling them they're doing something wrong. Because the truth is, if you have an impulse to kind of post in these sort of ways, then you probably just want to find someone who's like chill with that, you know?
I think just don't be crazy.
But like
just don't
nothing
be an
like
annoying
lip syncing
person.
to videos, nothing in this is crazy.
No. I'm saying that nothing of that in and of itself is crazy.
Who are you saying is being crazy, mister?
No, just
ladies.
anyone who could be. No, men too. Just don't be annoying. You know?
I don't know. I mean, social media is like an annoying place right now because it's kind of like both a brand and like you know, we do a lot of organizing through social media and like I appreciate having that platform in order to create a real world community, but it's also just like a silly place where you want to occasionally like get validation from your friends by being like, I look cute today.
It's fun to be goofy on the internet. And I would say that if you're someone who's just got a persona out there or whatever, and another person is like, I'm not going to marry you because of this, that's probably good.
Right, exactly. You're just not compatible. Like, that's fine.
But I guess the ultimate issue is they're trying to make it seem like one party can be on social media, or it seems like women just shouldn't be on social media, and the fact that they are is the only reason that they're not getting married, rather than men having some sort of weird hang up about social media or like women being visible.
Yeah, I mean, it does talk about men too in their gym selfies, so I appreciated that there was some equity there.
But how often do you hear about, like, from a woman's perspective, to be quite honest, like being like, oh, well, he posts on whatever, blah, blah, blah. So,
but completely, I totally agree with you. It's more likely that like men, especially Muslim men, will write off women for posting things that they think are like kind of too sexy than the other way around.
Not even too sexy. Like, I mean, some people
just posting, just existing online.
But again, I just feel like you probably don't want to, if you have a certain set of social media habits that you feel are indicative of who you are, and you feel compelled to change them because you want the people who judge based on that criteria to find you fit for marriage, I feel like that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like it's different to think about, and like maybe this is too far for some people, but I think this is reasonable. I think there can be boundaries within marriage, and that's just like really specific to the couple and what you're comfortable with, and you discuss that and you think about it. But certainly, like for some dude you're not married to yet who doesn't even know who you exist, you don't have to change your posting habits. And like I wouldn't like radically change them after being married either, but I think it's reasonable to be like, oh, you know, I'm not even going to say it because I don't have a strong opinion on what the boundary is. I'm just saying I don't think it's toxic if you have a boundary necessarily. I think it's just up to each couple to kind of figure out what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you're not even with someone, it's kind of like just do what feels comfortable to you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense? I feel like that makes sense.
It's pretty simple. It's not, you know, it's like, yeah, but it makes sense.
But I've actually heard friends, like I had a friend the other day who was like, oh, like maybe he's not into me anymore because I posted that. So like I feel like women can like self-police a little bit. I never did this, I have to say. But there are people who kind of like will double, like she felt comfortable posting what she posted, but then afterwards she was worried that someone was no longer into her because of it and like was worried that she was being judged. And that makes me feel sad to have that kind of like...
That's not just like a social media, you know what I'm saying? Like that seems
That's
to be
true.
like an actual kind of more fundamental difference in how you live your life.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like there's some people who'd be like, oh, it's fine that you wore that outfit. Just like that you're showcasing it to the world makes me uncomfortable.
I don't for a second believe that those sorts of things start and end with social media.
Really?
Yeah, why would they, right?
Because I feel like I don't think this way, but I think that there is the idea out there of like, well, you're posting for attention or even for like you know, like you want like one audience as opposed to like when you just like leave your house.
I would bet my life.
Less curated.
I would bet my life that behind closed doors.
Bet your life.
Yes. Like someone like that behind closed doors would also have something to say. Maybe not immediately, right? Because you don't want to come on controlling like from the jump, but like you could say a year into marriage, suddenly is like, hey, why are you wearing that? Or why are you talking to this person this way or whatever, I would say that is a big red flag, and that is something you should address before committing to a person in any serious way. Because they may, if the person's like, yeah, I just don't like this behavior, whatever, it's not for me, and maybe we're not compatible. That I'm like, okay, respect, like that's fine.
Right.
But if they're like, oh, just like in one, this, whatever, that, like, I just see it going in a more manipulative route, and perhaps there's like a deeper insecurity there that, comes out as an attempt to control.
I feel like now I'm being inconsistent. But I'm just kind of like thinking it through. I'm kind of surprising myself with this response, but like, yeah, okay. I think you're right. I think I'm thinking more about in the context of like you're already in a relationship, and the way you show up online makes your person feel some kind of way. I feel like that's different, right, than if you're just like interested in someone.
Let's say more. You're saying that if you're in a relationship
and like you like to post selfies still, even though you're with someone, because it just makes you feel good. Like, I feel like that is more of like a fair conversation than if you're being pursued by someone, then like, right, I think you're right.
But things come with being someone. There's some level of discovery of like, yeah, I guess there's like room for nuance there.
Yeah, for both parties, I think.
But I would say if it's about the posting in and of itself,
and
not,
right.
Like,
I'm thinking more explicitly sexy photos or like sexy-ish.
Yeah, even like if you're posting a sexy photo, right? Like if you find that the opinion changes over time, and people do change, right? Like I feel like it's less likely for a couple who've been married for like 10 years for someone to still be posting sexy photos than like a young late 20s couple, whatever.
Nah, you gotta stay hot, man. If you do it in your 20s, you can do it in your 40s.
I don't know about that. But anyway, so I don't know. I guess you kind of have to give some thought to what is it controlling for, or like what is is it like expressing yourself through posting in any particular way, or is it, hey, there's a specific aspect of this that makes me uncomfortable, whether it's like, oh, maybe a certain person can see it, or like whatever. And
I think also
allowing, that you might not have known before or whatever. I don't know.
I think also allowing for the nuance that like, this is like actually not related anymore to the post. I'm just thinking more about the like posting aspect and not about this particular Islamic dating aspect. But like, I think there's room for like attraction and like, definitely not for like seeking one person's attraction, because if you're in a monogamous relationship, I think that's like a major red flag. But I think there's room to be like, oh, like I still have a relationship with my own attractiveness and the world and like just general vibes, even when you are in a partnered relationship, that can be healthy. But I think that's like something to negotiate with your partner. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's like very clear cut or black or white, but I think it's possible to like post something and just sort of feel like, oh, well, this makes me feel good. And like there is an element of like, because I'm being perceived as attractive here, but I don't think that's necessarily bad as long as it's not like out of control or like trying to fulfill a lack that's in your relationship. But I think where that line is just going to be different for every two people.
Yeah. And it's going to seem like we're flip-flopping here, both of us. But I
think it's interesting, though.
I think it's also fair for your partner to then, like if you're someone who, like if you're a partnership that like kind of grows together, and maybe your partner is starting to develop a different relationship with social media and is like,
yeah,
well, can we think about why posting on social media or whatever makes you feel good?
Validated,
right? And they're kind of pressing you on that in a way that feels like healthy or like really genuine or intellectually like curious about it. Like, I think that's fair, and I don't think that's necessarily a red flag, but yeah, I guess the distinction is like, does it feel like you're growing together, or that someone is just trying to force you to be a certain way?
Yeah, and something I feel like I've learned more personally from our relationship is like, even if you like grow in slightly different, even if you like your opinions or your relationship towards something, like now I'm not thinking about social media, I'm thinking about something else. changes, I think that if you're still able to like talk through that, that's the important thing. Like that's the growing together part, is that you're able to like communicate through it. And like, even if you have slightly different perspectives on the halal to haram ratio of any given thing, that you can talk about it and like have respect for each other, I think is really important.
Yeah.
So you don't have to even come to like, you don't have to always come to 100% the same conclusion.
Do you want to give a specific example?
No,
No.
I don't.
maybe some other time.
Yeah. Well, I can give it if you want. We can cut it.
No, up to you. You could think about,
My own
who's
reputation.
listening.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So,
Well, okay. In Oregon, where this is legal, like weed gummies or something like I'm interested in exploring still, that you were interested in for a little bit, but not because you think they're like necessarily like, I don't know what your opinion is on their haramness or whatever, but like you're not interested in that anymore for yourself.
no.
Yeah. This hasn't really been a point of tension, so maybe it's not the best example, but like that's something where like, yeah, we didn't move in the same direction on that. It's not like a huge part of my life, but it's something that once I finally get my Pennsylvania medical card, I would like to just occasionally indulge in.
Okay.
But like, yeah, like
I was only briefly partaking in ganja because I thought it would help with pain relief.
it just made you anxious.
And it just made me, want to kill myself. So
It made you want to kill yourself? Or you?
it was terrifying.
Are you
not kill
exaggerating?
myself. It made me feel like I was going to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also made me feel like everyone in my life hated me.
Jeez.
And it made me feel like a liar for winning this DARE Student Leadership Award in 5th grade.
That was your main thing that you were like really
I would
sad.
look up at that little DARE lion and cry.
We got to get that back from your parents so we can hang it in a place of honor.
Yeah, we should. Put it on the bookshelf.
Yeah, for sure.
Replace it that horse.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good example of like, I mean, it's a pretty subtle one because this is not something I do frequently, but like that you don't partake at all and that I might occasionally, like we did land in different places on that, but like, yeah, we had good communication about it. I mean, it was actually not that complicated because it's not been like a point of tension for us, but like we've mentioned it once or twice, like, oh, you're not interested in exploring this anymore. I'm not going to ask you to anymore because you've made it clear it's just not for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there's it's also like not consistent, right? Like you want to think that people have just like very
That's so true.
good rules that make sense from one situation to another, but like I don't feel the same way about weed that I do about alcohol, that I do about like
Gambling.
gambling or whatever. Like I just, different things trigger you in different ways.
Totally, yeah.
And I think ultimately, yeah, I guess, the distinction should be like, are we kind of like learning something together or
But I
figuring
think,
out something together?
are we
Is it-
compatible enough? Because like if I got stoned every night, not that there's anything wrong with that,
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be kind of a bummer for you. You know what I mean? Because we'd be in such different like
then I would feel it.
headspaces.
It would definitely be a moral issue.
Okay, I don't agree with that. I don't have to be moral.
No, for sure. It would
I think
be.
because I want to be careful because I think there's lots of people who get stoned every night just to go to sleep or like for pain stuff or whatever. I mean, if you have to do anything every night, that's maybe something to investigate if it's not like for like a medical reason. But yeah, my point is like I don't think it's moral. I think it's compatibility, and like because it's something that I do infrequently, and like I don't feel like a lack from that. I don't have the desire to do it all the time, or even more than like a handful of times a year.
Okay, I will say, you get annoyed with me when we're in bed and I'm like on my phone for a little bit, and you're done being on your phone, and you're like, okay, I am done being on my phone now. Can we please have a conversation like human beings?
I wish
And
I
then-
had like saved. I saw this reel that was like 100% accurate. I totally should have sent it to you. I'm so sad I lost it. But it was like me when I'm on my phone, and it was like, oh, relaxing, quality self-time. And then it was like my husband when he's on his phone and I'm done being on my phone, ignoring me,
Yeah.
being cruel. And I was like, that's exactly how I feel. Like if I'm scrolling, I'm
So
like, this
it's
is chill.
Real rich coming from you that you're like, yeah, it'd be fine to get stoned every night.
No, I'm
It's-
saying it wouldn't be fine for us. That's the point. It's about compatibility. Like that's why I'm saying
No.
if to me it's not a moral issue, it's a compatibility issue. Like even though we're not exactly 100% aligned on this, and that we have different relationships to weed and like,
Yeah.
but like that you have to be just compatible enough, I think.
I would say we would not be morally compatible.
Right. I'm not trying to add a moral dimension to it, but if that's what you want to do, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because honestly, like if I had a partner who got stoned every night, actually I think that would bother me. I'm not going to lie. Never mind. But like if they got stoned more than I did, I don't know that that would bother me. You know what I mean? So it depends on the two people that are in the situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Big revelations here on Field Between.
Yeah.
You have to be compatible to be together.
No, okay, but it's a good revelation because I think I had a very unrealistic idea because I hadn't been in many long-term relationships. I thought you had to be like really fully, like you had to kind of like agree and come to, especially in arguments. I've struggled with this. I think we both do. Maybe I have like a little bit of a moral purity complex where I'm like, if you don't fully see, not moral purity, but like if you don't fully come to the conclusion I came to about this thing, then like how can we move on? But it doesn't. Because like obviously I'm right and I've thought it through, but it turns out it doesn't work that way. It's kind of like a revelation. Like you could have like different ways of seeing something, and as long so that's why the enough is really key. Like you to be compatible enough. You don't have to be fully compatible. It's okay.
Was one of the first pieces of advice that we ever got from Farhan Ali.
Well, his advice specifically was to say your wife is always right.
No.
That still works as my advice.
No, you don't remember this? He's like you have to be 80% compatible.
Aw, really? I don't remember that. That's
You don't
cute.
remember this?
No, I always remember him whenever
And
like
he's
young
constantly,
guys.
like we'd be telling him about other couples or whatever. And he's like, I think they are 60% compatible.
Yeah, he really likes to like add a number to things. My dad.
I think he thinks 80, 85 is great.
I think we're like, I think we're definitely there. Yeah, on this issue and all issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should do an argument episode one time
Oh, that's so dangerous.
and just talk about like a meta argument about how we argue.
We're both pretty good at arguing. That's the dangerous thing about us. I think it also makes like for really like a really fun dynamic relationship, and like I love talking through issues with you. But I would say it's a skill that we both have, for better and for worse. Like we can get very in the weeds and very technical, even with things that are not that deep in the end, and with things that are deep, But
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're at an hour, so we can call it here.
Nice. Enjoy things responsibly. Post if it makes you happy. Stay safe.
And don't forget to pray.
We should take that advice. Yes. Okay. Bye.
Bye.